Welcome to our virtual SOFIN presentation for November. I'm Anne and my partner.
I'm Linda James.
And we're here to show you some really fun ideas for the holiday season, quick and easy designs. And it's brought to you by Quality Sewing and Vacuum in the Pacific Northwest. Our SOFIN education team goes to 11 of our stores once a month for 11 months out of the year and puts on this presentation in person. So if you get a chance to come to an in-person class, we would love to see you. Products shown today will be on the website until December 4th at the discounted SOFIN price. You can choose to have your orders shipped, or you can pick them up at a local store for free, and all orders over $100 ship for free. There will be 2 gifts that we'll be drawing for to be entered for a chance to win. Please like, comment, or share, and then we will announce at the end of the presentation those winners and whose names we have drawn. So welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started. We have a lot to do. We're going to introduce some of our notions first so that you know what you have. Hopefully you have downloaded one of our product sheets and you can check those. So I'm going to start out with a few of the notions, and then Linda's going to follow with her notions. The first notion that I wanted to start out with, this is called the Add a Binding tool. And this actually is a 5-in-1 tool, and I will be demoing this in just a few minutes here. So we have that. I think that's the first thing on your list. We also have Wash Away Wonder Tape. How can we live without this? It's wonderful for putting in zippers or positioning anything. We also have a couple of quick and easy mitered binding tools that will help you when you bring your backing to the front and you miter your corners. This one happens to be the dual angle. We also have the one for the right angle as well, and we'll be showing those. And then this little gadget, this may be helpful for some of you. When I first started quilting, I didn't have a place that I could put my quilt wall, so I had to hang it in my hallway, and I could only go back so far. And this is a little quilt view finder, and you can see your whole quilt, even though you don't have a lot of space to move back. And you can see, yeah, that block maybe needs to be changed with this block. So it really is a very helpful little tool. So now Linda's going to tell you about some of her notions.
The first one I want to tell you about is the cork that we brought in. There are 4 different types of cork. We have the black onyx, the floral, embossed paisley, and the dots. And we've made quite a few items with several different patterns in those particular corks. We also brought in Sally Tomatoes key fobs, the hardware for the key fobs. And we made a couple of those up using the antique gold color. On the back of the package, Sally has instructions on going on her website in order to get the dimensions for your cutting and applying the fob. These would make a great little Christmas gift, stocking stuffer. And then you did that. We have the wool pressing mat, the extra large wool pressing mat. We brought the smaller one, about half the size in a previous presentation, but this one is especially great for doing a long section of your quilt, say for table runners when you're doing those blocks to press them out. You use the wool pressing mat because the iron sends a steam down through your block, and it helps set that seam perfectly.
Okay, we're going to start out with this book here. This is called Quick and Easy Sewing. And guess what? It has 20 different projects. You can have projects for your sewing room, projects for your kitchen, projects for your home, table runners, some little baskets. And guess what? It really is a wonderful value because it retails for $9.99 and you get 20 different projects. So with your Sew Fun discount, you're paying about $7 or $8. I think it's $7 with your Sew Fun discount. So that's a great one. And we're going to start out showing you some of these things. I grabbed the wrong book, but we are going to show you this. We're going to start out with Jelly Roll Jam. And this book has 9 different patterns, and it has patterns that are quick and easy to put together. And you're going to see some different ideas on how to make things out of this book. So Linda's going to start with her samples, and then I'll show mine.
On the Jelly Roll.
On the Jelly Roll, yeah. Sorry for that.
The first quilt that I want to show you is called Chart Topper. And this particular quilt was not made with jelly rolls. It was made from my collection of purples, of which I have a ton. Every time I go in a quilt shop and I see a purple fabric that I like, instead of getting a yardage, I get it in the fat quarter. So I have quite a collection. You can make your own strips. Just cut 2.5-inch strips and make this beautiful chevron design. I use the backing fabric for the front border and a very large overall quilting design so as not to detract from these very pretty chevrons. I did cut the pattern down by 1 row to make it a little bit easier to transport, but it still makes a very large, pretty throw. The next one that I did is called Rainbow Connection. And because I don't have little girls to sew for anymore, I just have boys, I found this very pretty multicolor bubble print. And it's very easy. It's just long strips that you put together. Well, that's not going to stay up. There we go. And then you've got little triangles at the end of each block. Put the blocks in a horizontal direction. And I also used a large bubble quilt design to echo the print. And the white sets that single color off beautifully. And I bound it with the same bubble print. The next one I did is called Charm Topper. This particular quilt I did with African prints, and I did stitch in the ditch along each row of the block, and then you add the black to the top. I used my Baby Lock Sashiko machine to do the Sashiko decorative stitching on the quilt. The fabric I used for the back is also an African fabric. They have very, very large designs, and I was a little surprised when I got it in the mail because I saw a picture of it that was about like that, and the design actually is very much bigger. Most of these designs are large, but they translate differently when they trim them down to 2.5 inches. Now with that jelly roll that I purchased, I was able to do 2 quilts out of the fabric. And again, there's my large print on the back. It turned out very well. And Anne has hers to show you.
Okay, that is gorgeous. The print on the back. I'm a purple gal, and that is just beautiful. Well, the quilt that I made is rather a large one, and it is called, get me in front of the camera, and I forget what I'm supposed to say. What?
Chain link.
Chain link. I've only done this so many times. Yes, this is chain link, and it actually used 30 of the 42 jelly roll strips, and you're going to be creating a 3-row strip of 3 different jelly rolls with the white in between. And so you can do it, you can lay this out however you want. Those of you who know me know that I don't dance with random very well, because I like to be very planned and things like that. But I kind of did this random with a little bit of planning. I laid all the strips out in strip sets of 3, and then I just laid them out on my big cutting table and just looked at how they kind of went together. If you have 2 pinks that come next to each other, it really doesn't matter, because they're different prints and they're going to read differently. So once what you're going to do to start this row out, and it's long, this is almost a queen size quilt, so your rows are going to be really, really long. But if you notice, they're offset. And the way that you offset them is the first one, you'll start with a white 7.5-inch piece. And for this row here, the next one, you'll cut that in half. And then this one, you'll use your 7.5-inch piece. So that's how you stagger it. So one of the things that I really found helpful, well, there's 2 or 3 things that I found helpful about this. And one of them is to create your 3-row sections, create all of those, and then they are divided here by white sashing. Now this quilt has a lot of negative space. When you have a lot of white or gray or whatever as your background fabric, and you have a lot of it, it creates negative space. So if you remember on Linda's Rainbow Connection quilt, she had a very small quilt design, so she got a lot more texture. Mine is basically a 7-inch quilt design, so it doesn't give you as much texture. When you take your quilts to a quilter, you can decide if you want a small design or a large design. Now, putting these together, I would suggest that you start in the middle and you put a pin in the middle of each row, and then you pin from the middle out. Because if you start pinning over here, you're going to end up with some fabric over here that you probably don't want. So start in the middle and pin out, and then every other row, well, you can do a couple of rows the same direction and then change and go the other direction, because if you don't, your quilt's going to kind of go downhill like this, and you're not going to like the way that it turns out. So to keep it nice and even, stitch the rows in opposite directions. And then the last thing is take 3 of these sections and 3 of your sashing sections or strips and make a section. And do 3 of those and then put those together as the full quilt, because you've got 10 rows here, so you do section of 3, 3, and then 4, and work with those sections instead of trying to add each individual row to the quilt as you go, because it makes it so much easier for you to handle it and for your machine to handle it. So that was really a lot of fun. And then I put some fabric that I had been given a bolt of from Riley Blake, and this is their chevron fabric. And I thought it's just a perfect fabric for the back. Plus everything that I show you today comes out of my, I call it a stash. Some people call it a fabric whatever, but everything has come out of my stash except for the cork that we're going to be showing you. Now, one of the things that we wanted to show you is how you can take a regular quilt pattern and cut it down. Now, if I see a beautiful queen size quilt and I don't want to make it, what I do is I copy off the pattern, and then I take a Sharpie and I mark off how many blocks that I want my quilt to be. That's a very easy way to cut a pattern down. But you can also make table runners out of quilt patterns, and that's what I've done here with this table runner here. And this has, I just took 12 blocks. These are 6.5-inch blocks, and I put them together and I put sashing in between. And this is called strawberry lemonade, but it doesn't look like strawberry lemonade. So I renamed it Boxes and Bows, and this is made out of a couple of holiday red and green batik fabrics. And then to quilt it, I found a poinsettia block design. I reduced it down to fit in my blocks, and I quilted it with our very, very favorite metallic thread, the King Star metallic thread. Now, if you live close to one of our stores, we carry it in our stores. If not, you can order it through one of our stores or find it online or whatever if you're out of our area. But it is a very, very wonderful metallic thread. I've used all different kinds of metallic thread through the years. The only thing you have to remember is just use a size 14 top stitch needle, and I had no breaks, and most of my table runners that I'll show you today have been quilted with King Star thread. And then my little pumpkin here I did with King Star thread too, the metallic thread. So it is a beautiful thread and one that works very well. So those are our samples out of our first book. So I think now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about this pattern right here, the zippered bag set. There are 11 different zippered bag designs. They will either be rectangular or they will be square, and they start at 4x4 and they go up to 9.5 by 14. So they fit in all your different sized hoops. So I'm just going to show you what I did, and then Linda's going to show you what she did. She did some really innovative ideas with mixing cork and fabric, which the ladies have just loved. This is actually an 8x8 bag, and before I did this, I talked with the designer of the pattern, and I said, can you add cork to the bags? And she said, anything bigger than 5x7, you can add the batting to it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to add batting or not. I did add the batting, and this is an 8x8, and they're fully lined here on the inside, if you can see there. So that's one that I did. And then I did the largest one. This is actually out of the grunge dot cork. This one's out of the floral cork, and this is the largest size. It's all done in the hoop, and she gives you very wonderful instructions and pictures on how to put these together. These are not hard to do. You just need to read the instructions and follow those, and then this is nice and large, and it's fully lined here. So those are the two bags that I did. So now we're going to let Linda show you what she did and go on from there. So we're going to switch places here.
These were so much fun to do because each one looked a little bit different. This one I did in 5x5 inch square. And the bottom of this has the stippling that is offered in the design pattern. You can either do it with stippling or without. You have to choose. And again, it's fully lined as well. The next one I did is also stippled on the lower portion. I looked to see if it could be stippled on the back. the design is simply for the front stippling. And it's all lined as well. My son came over while I was stitching this out, and he said, "Mom, could you make me one of those out of vinyl? I've got a special tool I need protection for." And I said, "Well, I can certainly give it a try." And it worked out quite well. I didn't have to line it because the vinyl was extra stable, and it had kind of a finish to the back of it. But what I wanted to let you know is that you can use these for something other than decorative purses. And then the other one that I did, I used the embossed paisley cork on the bottom, and I used fabric on the back, and I used the strip from the fabric for the strip on the top portion. When I made this, I realized the cork is very stable, so I did not use batting on the front lower portion where the cork is, but it's batted on the rest of the bag. And it turned, the instructions tell you how to trim this so that they turn very nicely, and you end up with a nice square corner. So those are our zipper bag sets. And
so now we're going to move on to Corky wallets. Why don't you show them
the
wallets that you made?
We also brought in the Corky wallet pattern, and it's, again, a very quick and easy pattern that you can use. Has all the instructions in it. The only thing that I did with my wallets, I placed my driver's license against the pattern that they instruct you to cut, and decided I wanted to make it just a little bit bigger for ease of getting that wallet in there. So Anne did one in the grunge dots, and she used a dark brown cork on the inside. The nice thing about this is there's no findings on this particular little wallet. It works by simply, you stitch only to a certain point on the front flap, and then the flap slips right in and it holds in place. And I've been using mine for quite a while, and it stays closed very nicely. And also did one with the embossed cork. Again, it just slides right in there and you have it. She did one in the large floral. And there it is, lined with its own floral. And one of the things that we used the double stick wash away tape for on these wallets was this little strip on the Corky wallet. It's a stabilizer strip for this portion of the wallet. And it helps to, you stick it down and it stays in place perfectly, so you can stitch that piece on. I did this one with a vinyl that I found, very patriotic cactuses, but I lined it with a light colored cork. Same thing, it goes in beautifully. And, you know, when we got to making these, it was so fun. And we started thinking, what else can we use to make these wallets with that we have in our supply? I had this cute little floral vinyl that when I bought it, I thought it was a large floral, something like our cork. But I realized it was too small for the scale of the pocketbook I wanted to use. It's perfect for the Corky. I also used a turquoise suede on the inside. And there's that strip that I told you to use the double stick tape on. It works very well. It's very difficult to use pins with these. You have to use the little clips to hold it in place. And it just slips right in, just perfect. And then Anne had the craft text in her supplies, and that's what she made these two out of, and they just turned out beautifully. Great gifts for Christmas, for stocking stuffers, or for yourself.
Okay. One of the things that I'll tell you about the Corky wallets is I use them for gift cards. Most of my grandkids like money, like most of the kids do. So I just make them and use up my scraps. And if they want to put their business cards in them or their credit cards or whatever, they can do that. Now, if you want to make a keychain, all you have to do is measure your key fob here. And this is 1 inch, and just take, and these are just scraps that I used from making the wallets. And generally, this one, sometimes I like a smaller one, but if you look online, they'll tell you to cut. I think this is like an 8-inch strip. This is more like a 6-inch strip. Some people like to put them over their hand like that, over their arm, but they're super simple. Just cut them 2 inches, fold them in half, stitch them on each side, and you've got a great gift. And with the rose gold that we have, all of the gals love this rose gold, so that would be wonderful. Okay, now we're going to go to the book, Quick and Easy. But let me just tell you, this is just one of my most favorite notions that I keep in my sewing room, because you can use it on anything. And I will be telling you how to use it when you make a strap for your handbag. I couldn't have done it without it. But we're going to move into the book that I introduced first. You know, up here in front of the camera, sometimes you get a little bit mixed up. But anyway, this was my hot seller when when I was traveling, because the projects are so fun. Look at those cute hot pads and things like that. It's just a really versatile book from Annie's. So now Linda's going to talk about the things that she did out of the Quick and Easy sewing book, and then I will show you what I did out of mine.
The first one I'd like to show you is the crossbody bag that's in the back of the book. I made it out of the black onyx cork. This is just luscious feeling. It's so nice. I found a push button finding for the front that is more of a triangular shape that I felt went well with the design of the flap. And then I bought the matching attachments for the sides. On the back, they have a pocket for your phone. And I have one of the larger phones, so I measured mine and added some to the top measurement of that pocket. I used black pleather for my strap and a kind of metallic gray insides. It has a pocket that you stitch down the middle to give you 2 pockets to put your different things that you carry with you. And then I did the wine bottle bag. In the pattern, they provide a star type block for the front of this bag, but they also, at the bottom of the bag, give you a tip. And that tip is, if you have orphan blocks, of which I have many, you can use those blocks on the front. I had made a quilt with this star block and had to cut it down to make it fit, but I felt it worked quite well. And then I used a kind of a serpentine stitch down the bag to give it an overall quilting. And it's just absolutely perfect for gift giving. And then the book has citrus pot holders, and they're pictured in orange color for orange, yellow for the lime wedge. My daughter looked at the book and said, "Mom, could you do those in green for my mojitos?" And I said, "Well, sure, of course I can." Anyway, I used Insulate inside the pad. The book shows using the little tiny white buttons for seeds, but I thought perhaps because she might be setting a glass on this, it would be better to use the decorative stitch from my machine and make that little seed and use it a one stitch setting, finish it and move it and do the next one. If you use cotton fabric on this, there won't be any problems with reaching into a hot stove and touching something and maybe melting that. And I zigzagged around the different wedges of the citrus. So those were the 3 that I did.
Okay. I'm going to start out with a wonderful pattern for this is an insulated iron bag, but I did insulate it, and I'll tell you how I did that. But this is a wonderful pattern just for the bag itself. You could make it, you don't have to put the applique on it if you don't want to, but it's just a great bag. And the reason that it is so nice and firm is because I used fusible foam in it. I used it's either a single fusible side or a double fusible, but I didn't fuse the lining down. To make this bag, it's just like your purse. You come down and they cut the corners out, and then you have your bottom. And so that's why the corners are so nicely mitered here. Somebody said, "What did you put in the bottom of it?" I said, all this is just fusible foam. But to insulate it, I didn't want to put Insulated in it because I don't like the way Insulated quilts when you have to quilt it to secure it to something. And so what I did was I had some of the ironing board fabric that is Teflon on one side, and so I used that. And I put the Teflon facing inside the bag so that it would keep all the heat in here. This is for a regular sized iron, and when I travel, I have a little travel iron over here that I'm going to be demoing with. I just use that. So I can still use this just as a bag. I thought it would make a wonderful pattern storage bag as well. And so you also get instructions for your cord keepers, and these are two of the large, and then there's also a small one. But I've been traveling so much lately that the small ones are in my travel bag with all my iPad cords and things like that. But this is a really fun bag to make. Now, I wanted to show you and talk to you about applique, and I don't know if you can see that. This is just plain applique, and I did go around it with a satin stitch, and then on each side of the satin stitch, this is a technique that I learned from one of our sewing consultants many years ago, Marge Woody. Many of you may know her. She taught Lana and I to go around the satin stitch with a triple straight stitch. So I hope that you can see how beautiful that is and how it finishes off your applique. When you use a satin stitch, generally you just use a regular zigzag stitch. But this is something that I learned many, many years ago. It may have been from a FOF educator, but you don't want to use your regular zigzag stitch because a regular zigzag stitch goes zig, zag, zig, zag. There is a stitch on your machine that is called a Z like Zorro. Just remember Zorro, zigzag stitch, and that is what you want to use. A Zorro zigzag stitch, I got to make sure my hand's in the camera. A Zorro zigzag stitch, you can't say that very, very fast. It's straight across the top and then it zigs down. Straight across the top, zigs down. So when you compact those stitches together to get a satin stitch, your stitch doesn't have to bump up. It's already straight across. And so it gives you a much nicer stitch. Now, on your, I'm only familiar with FOF and Viking, and that in the FOF and Viking machines, it will be with your regular stitches. If you have a brother or a baby lock, it's going to be in the quilting stitches. And I'm sorry that I don't know for the other machines because I don't have a Bernina, but I think all of your machines will have that stitch. So that makes me happy when I do applique. I can use that beautiful stitch and it's finished off, and guess what? If you make a mistake or you think you've made a mistake and it's not as perfect as you'd like it, that will cover it up. So it not only makes it look beautiful, it can cover your mistakes as well. And we do make mistakes. We all make mistakes. So that is the first project that I did. And the second project, let's see. Oh, I'll show you my bag. Now this is my bag like Linda showed you. We each made a bag, and I chose to make it out of the tool cork because I have a granddaughter who loves things like this. So I decided that I would make her the keychain and the wallet and everything. I'll put this in for her for Christmas. The pattern calls for a press lock, and it's easy to install. But something that Linda told me is that when she got her bag together, she had to undo the top here in order to place this. You can't decide where you need this to be until your bag is sewn on, you know, sides. So since I have made so many bags through the years, I contemplated on it, and I finally decided I'm just going to make it like a regular bag. I'm going to make my bag unit, and I'm going to make my lining unit, and then I'm going to sew it all the way around the top to finish it off, because you have your straps, you have your flap, and you have put this on your flap. And what you do is there's these little screws here. Sally Tomato has wonderful instructions on how to do this if you want to go on YouTube. But these are teeny little screws, and you put a little bit of glue here and screw these, and then it secures it. Also, you need to know where to put this little attachment here. So what I did was I pulled the lining up, and through the opening that I left, I could put my hand up and I could position this. Now, if you notice here, I have lining in it, but I have quilted the lining with just batting. And this is something I learned from Amy Butler many years ago making her bags, is that if you don't want to put your stabilizer on the front of the bag, add it to your lining. I do this all the time because it used to be that they would say use fusible fleece, and you would use it on your fashion fabric, and then your fabric would take on the look of the fleece. And so what I did was I just quilted it in a grid, just a grid quilt, and it gave the stability that she needs, because, you know, young people kind of just throw their purses wherever they want. And so I wanted to make sure that it would do the job. And let me also tell you about the cork. I have worked with all different kinds of cork, and this cork has a fabric backing on it, so it's not going to crack like a lot of the other corks. So it is a very high quality cork. Let me just tell you about handles. When you do a handle, you can either choose if you want to have 2 layers or 4. This is a very supple vinyl that I got to make the handle out of it. And so what I did was I cut a 4-inch strip because I wanted it to be a finished 1 inch. And then on the edges of the 4-inch strip, I tried a glue stick. It did not work. I ran this tape down each side of the 4-inch strip. And then before I did that, I marked the center. I measured over 2 inches and marked the center, because I want to bring those edges to the center. So I did that, and I would pat them down, and they would stay down, and then all I had to do to bring them together again was just fold them up like this and put my clips. And so if you're making a handle out of vinyl or leather or pleather or whatever, this makes it so easy because you can't iron this. And usually when you make a handle out of fabric, you can iron it. So that was just one of the great things about the Wash Away Wonder Tape. The last thing is this. This is called Summer Blooms, and this is a table runner. Actually, it's a table topper. And I used the, from Robert Kaufman, I think it was a Holiday Flourish, 5-inch squares. You're going to use 5-inch squares. Did you cut your squares?
Yes.
How many did you cut? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, I had a 5-inch pack, and I know I didn't use all of them, so you don't need a whole bunch. I guess we could count it up, but we don't need to. But I wanted to show you here where the block is. This is your 5-inch. Would be red. It would be my 5-inch block. All you do is you put a triangle on each end, and you get this look, and then you just kind of just lay them out however you would like to lay them out. And then what I want to do now is I want to show you how to use a couple of the rulers, and we're going to go over to the machine. This one is the dual angle ruler, which will give you a perfect miter on either an octagon or a hexagon. So I'm going to go over to the machine now, and I'm going to do some demoing over here. The first thing is not a machine demo, but I kind of need to be back here so Carrie can get me in the camera. Oh, Linda, will you grab my 2 rulers right there on the table? I need the other one.
Oh, the add a binding?
Yeah. Okay, so as I was traveling, I was asking the ladies, how many of you have someone in your home who has a 5-in-1 tool? I do. My husband has quite a few 5-in-1 tools. Well, this actually is a 5-in-1 tool for binding, and I'm going to show you all the different things that you can do with it. If you notice, there are 2.5-inch marks and 2.25-inch marks. Now, I sew a lot in my RV, and if I want to cut binding, I don't have a big space to cut my binding. And so you know what, with this little ruler, it's almost 12 inches, you can bifold your fabric into 4 layers, and you can cut your binding with this tool. So that's the first thing you can do. You can cut your strips of binding. The second thing you can do is you can square these, you can angle these off so that you cut off the dog ears. Now, I simply hate dog ears. I think they get in the way of me stitching as perfectly as I would like to. So I love to cut the dog ears off. So that's the second thing you can do. If you notice here, there's a 2.5-inch angle, right angle here, and a 2.25-inch. I'm going to show you what that's used for here in just a second. And then there are things that you can do, and I'm going to save these little strips to the last. So what I'm going to do, probably need to turn this around like this, and hopefully I can do this upside down. So what you're going to do, can you get down there? This is where you're going to start sewing here. You want to leave about an 8 to 10 inch section here unsewn, and you can see this is not 8 to 10 inches because it's a small sample. And then you want another 8 to 10, maybe 12-inch tail right here. 8 to 10 is probably good. So you're going to stitch here, then you're going to stitch around here with your binding, come up here, and then this is your last strip that you are going to be working with. So you're going to end it, and here is your binding here. So what you're going to do is you are going to lay this out completely. The one that you started on, you're going to lay it out completely, and then you're going to fold. Okay, I haven't done this for so long. Okay, I got to turn it around here. Okay, there we go. Now I'm back in business here. So you're going to lay this out I can't do things upside down. I'm sorry. You're going to bring this is your last strip that you sewed, and you're going to fold it so that those two edges come together. Then you're going to take this ruler here, and you're going to find there's a 2¼ inch mark and a 2½ inch mark. So from the fold, I'm going to lay my 2½ inch mark on the fold, and then I'm going to mark this with a washable marking pen, and that is where you cut your binding. Now, one of the things that I wanted to show you, and I forgot to bring a pen, but I have it done on this right here. You're going to mark this before you even start out with your binding. And how you do that is I've got some binding right here. I'm going to turn my little iron on so it gets a chance to heat up. What you're going to do is you're going to lay this on your binding, and then you're going to find the angle that meets it. This is a 2½ inch, and you're going to mark that line. It would be on the wrong side here. Let me just do that so that you're not confused. You're going to mark that line right there with a washable marker or whatever you want. That way, you know when you cut this off here, and since I don't have any more demos, I'm going to cut this off here. And then when you bring these together, you already have that angle marked. Oh, come on. When you bring them together like this, you put some pins, and then you've got your angle marked, and you don't even have to worry about when you stitch it, okay? So that's how you use that. But have you ever heard anybody from Quality Sewing say, and there is more? Well, there's one more thing that you can do with your binding, and that is you can press your binding in half with these little slits, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So hopefully I can do this upside down and not make a fool of myself. I'm going to press probably 8 to 10 inches here, and then I'm going to take and find the 2½ inch strip, and I want to position my ruler like this when you're looking at it. So what you're going to do is you're going to go up and down through that, like that. And then we're going to come down here, and we're going to take a pin, and we're going to pin this strip down on your ironing board like that. And then we're going to move all this stuff. And then you want to make sure that your ruler is basically straight. And then you can just kind of use your hand here, get that cord out of the way, and then you just go like this, and you can press it in half. And it's as slick as slick. And so you can do 5 different things with this particular tool, this particular ruler. So that is the Add a Binding tool, okay? So now what I want to do is I want to move over here to the sewing machine, and I'm going to show you how to use these, basically these 2 rulers. This one is for the right angles, and this is for the octagon and hexagon. And so this is called the Quick and Easy Miter Binding Tool for the right angle here, and then the dual angle Quick and Easy Miter Binding Tool. And once I show you how to do this, it's the very same for your square corners. But I thought it would be nice for you to see how to use this on hexagon. So I'll be right back. Okay, so basically what we are trying to do here is we are trying to miter these corners beautifully. And this is just a hexagon that I have used in creating table runners because you can put strips around them. If you want to find a hexagon, just search one online. I'm sure you can find a pattern for a hexagon. And this makes, I'm just doing these for my grandkids, and they're just going to be little fun mug rugs. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your batting and your hexagon trimmed your batting trimmed evenly with your hexagon. And then you can choose how wide you would like your finished binding to be. I usually use a 1/2 inch, and because of the turn of the cloth, it ends up to be about 3/8 of an inch. I've used 5/8 of an inch, and I've even used 3/4. What you will do is you will double that. So if I want a 1/2 inch finished binding, which actually ends up 3/8 of an inch, I will trim my backing down 1 inch all the way around. So that's the first thing that you're going to do. Once you have trimmed your batting even with your table runner or whatever you're making. So you're going to cut that. I cut this 1 inch, and you'll do that all the way around. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to press, you're going to bring this cut edge to the edge of your project, and you're going to press it all the way around. So you do that, and then you press it here all the way around. Then we're going to move down here so that you can see how to use the ruler to mark this. Okay, what did I do with my ruler? Right here. Okay, so what you're going to do is on the ruler here, you'll see it says octagon and hexagon. I know that this is a hexagon. So what I'm going to do is, if you notice here, we're going to, I got to get this, yeah, like that. Oops, like that. Okay, here is a line here, here is a line here. And see, it even gives you the angle. So you lay this line on this edge, this line on this edge, and then you mark these two lines here. And because you've got a pressed edge here, you put a hash mark here and a hash mark here. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take a pin, and I need to find a pin here. You're going to fold these back like this, bring these edges together so they're nice and even, and then I put a pin here, and can you see the edge of your hexagon? The point of your hexagon is right there. I'm going to stitch from here to the hash mark. I will back stitch right here, but I don't want to really back stitch here. What I want to do is I want to stitch to the pin, then back stitch, and then cut it in the center here so that you don't have a big glob of thread there. So the next thing we're going to do is go to the sewing machine, and we're going to put our presser foot down, and we're going to sew right along. Okay, and I want to go back. And then I'm going to sew down to that hash mark. Okay, wants to go up. And then I'm going to take my pin out, put the presser foot down, and I'm going to back stitch. And then I'm going to just cut. Okay. I didn't set this up, and it has automatic lift. When I'm doing something like this, I don't use the back stitch button. I don't use the presser foot up or whatever. I turn those off because I don't want to have to hassle with them. Okay, so now we have that done, maybe. Okay, got a few threads here we're going to clip. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim this down to 1/4 of an inch, and I can blunt that little edge off. Then I take my thumb, I think it's my thumb, push that out, and then I use my little point turner, and then these automatically turn under like this, and look at the beautiful miter that you have. So that's why you want to have these tools, because bringing the back to the front for your binding saves a lot of time. And if you run out of binding fabric, or you forgot to buy, say, a half a yard or 3/4 of a yard to bind something, you can certainly bring the back to the front. And if I were doing it on a quilt, I probably would do it a little bit wider. But just remember, if you want a 1/2 inch, you cut 1 inch. If you want 5/8 of an inch, you cut 1 1/4 inches. So you just double that, and it just works out really well. So we don't have any questions about that. We're going to go ahead and move on.
I forgot.
Linda has something she needs to talk about.
I have something I need to talk about. This is a one-take video that we do. We don't rehearse this, and we don't get to stop it and redo it. And so consequently, as we're talking, we've got all these things going in our minds, and there are some things that we do forget. One of the things I wanted to tell you about that I found was very, very helpful was a video. One of the women said to inside your purse, before you insert your lining, when you put this bar for the clasp for your button in, instead of putting your prongs in where most people tell you to do it, I'm sorry, I take that back. They tell you to bend them out. She said to bend them in to the center, and then you take a piece of duct tape and you put duct tape along the back side of the front of your purse to make sure that those things stay in place and don't come loose. That was the thing I wanted to
and
remember.
You know where that hint is from? It's from Sally Tomato.
Okay.
Because I read it too, and I forgot to. Okay. I did that, but I forgot about telling you about that.
And then the other was, I forgot to tell you about my table topper. I did mine in the spring type print fabrics, and I used the octagon shaped tool for my binding, and I didn't use 5-inch squares. I used regular yardage. I cut the squares, and then I cut to make these particular pieces to fit. And I also used my Baby Lock Sashiko machine to quilt it, to give it a hand quilted look. So anyway, those are the ones that I forgot.
Well, we are going to move on to one of my favorite patterns. I always have a favorite thing that I do every time I do So Fun. And this is the BQ Double Time Runner. And so I want to start out. We're going to show you what you can do with this table runner pattern that isn't a table runner. So we're excited about that. I'm going to show you the 2 sizes that you can make if you follow what the pattern says. So the first one is right here, and this is the full size pattern. And I used fat quarters. I bought some yardage of this. These fat quarters are probably at least 7 or 8 years old, that I just was waiting for the perfect pattern to make. And so I decided to do this, since it is fall, and fat quarters work for this. So if you notice, you've got some accent strips here, and then you've got an accent strip here, and then these 2 are mirror imaged, and these 2 are I guess mirror imaged, you'd say. Now, if you notice, there is a narrow binding or a border. What is it? Border. Yeah, strip. Border right here. And you can either put that on or you don't have to. And I decided I like a lot of glitz in my life. My kids give me a really bad time because the more glitz, the better I like it. And so I had to add some gold. It's actually fairy frost fabric. These patterns go together very, very quickly. And what I did was I did quilt it with an edge-to-edge design, and I used the King Star gold metallic. And in this little one that I showed you earlier, I used the King Star silver metallic. Now, if you want to make a smaller one, this is just the single one. And I didn't put the border around the larger centerpiece, but you can see I just used scraps from what I had in my stash. And you can just have fun coordinating the pieces and things like that. And I did use edge to edge with the gold King Star metallic thread on that.
Is this from one of the books?
This, oh, I'm sorry. We are live and we're making lots of mistakes. This is from this pattern. Thank you, thank you, thank you for asking that. It is called the BQ Double Time Table Runner pattern. And if you notice, and if you've been a quilter for a while, you'll notice that the BQ quilt has been around. The original pattern for her quilts have been around for at least 20 plus years, which usually doesn't happen to a quilt pattern. So now Linda's going to show you some things that you can do that are not a table runner and that you can get a lot of use out of your patterns.
Again, because I consult my daughters when I have my new books and patterns to do and say, what do you like? What do you want me to do with them? And both of the girls said, no more table runners and no more table toppers, because I've gifted them with so many. So I decided I would do something for me. I put 2 of the table runners together and made a bed runner. So it goes all the way across a king-size bed. And then I used the scraps that I had left for the backing. And I like to mix, I wish that wouldn't have come down. I like to mix different designs of fabric when I'm doing something. I've got the very large calf in the center. I've got a kind of a river type dot running this direction, and then I've got a geometric purple here. It all blends with my main focus fabric. I used my Baby Lock Sashiko to quilt with coordinating thread color. And it makes a perfect bed runner. And then, rather than do just a table topper with the pattern that they have, I decided to put 4 together. So you multiply the fabric requirements by 4. And I made a very, very attractive throw, pulling the colors from my focal fabric into my accent fabrics. I used a fairy frost in here, and it gives it kind of a sparkle. Again, quilting with the Baby Lock Sashiko machine to give it that hand quilted look. And then I just used a plain white on white for the back. But that way you use that pattern for more than just table toppers and table runners. You've got quilts and bed runners for an option.
Okay. That was a great idea. Okay, we're going to move over here to the pint-sized snowman. And let me grab, oh, it's over there. Okay, we're going to walk over here. And I guess I'll just go ahead and start out and tell you a little bit about this. This is actually a Jim Shore design. I am in love with Jim Shore's Christmas. I collect his Santas, snowmen, and angels. And many of you are familiar with him. These are for, usually, most all of these can be done in a 4x4 hoop. There is one design, you'll notice that there's 10 different designs. There's one that is combined, and so it does take a bigger hoop. So what I did with mine is I decided that I would just put them in a frame. I had these frames kind of cluttering my sewing room, and I needed to get rid of them. So this was the first one I did, and these, they probably work up in maybe 30 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. They stitch together quite easily and quite fast because they are small. And I just framed this, and then I decided with the three that go across, I wanted to make them a little bit bigger so that it would fit better in the frame. And so on my Dream Machine, my Brother Dream Machine, I just enlarged it and it turned out just fine. So I get to get two of the frames out of my house. I did make a little ornament here. They're perfect for ornaments. If you've got charity craft sales, or even if you do a crafts show or whatever, these sell very well. And then I decided to make, out of one of the tea towels that we have listed, we actually brought in 3 of the tea towels. And this one I just showed that you can make an apron out of a tea towel, and then I did a little embroidery here. He's kind of my favorite one. He's so cute. And if you're interested in the pattern or the instructions to do this, there's lots of wonderful YouTube videos. I actually used the one from Missouri Star from Jenny when she was just first doing her videos, and she tells you how big to make the pocket and how to cut the angles. The other thing that I did was I just wanted to show you that you can just use a strip of fabric to enhance a tea towel. And then a lot of the ladies were curious about this little trim here. Years ago, we brought in the perfect point rulers where you could do a rounded edge, or you could do prairie points, and that's what this is here. So those are the things that I did. I'm going to let Linda talk about what she did, and then she's going to talk to you about log cabin block basics.
I just went straight for the basics. I used the 3 towels that we've brought in for you. The red, the navy blue snowflake, and this cute little retro scalloped tea towel. I did the 3 stitch out on this particular tea towel. I pre-washed both the red and the blue tea towel because I wasn't sure if the red would run, if the blue would feed. And I don't know whether or not it was the detergent I used or my machine, but I was comparing mine to Anne's. She pre-washes hers as well, which is wise to do, especially with red. But mine seemed to come out a little bit more faded. I did just the single. This is the same one that Anne did on her apron. And then this is the other little fellow down here in the blue. And if I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't use these tea towels for the embroidery. I'd do something a little more on the line of what Anne did, because on the darker colors, my stitch out it doesn't pop like I would have liked it to. I used wash away stabilizer, and they still turned out very cute. And then the next thing I want to talk to you about is this nifty little book we brought in, the Log Cabin Basics. What's really nice about this book is that it starts out in the beginning showing you how to put together the blocks. There's 3 different blocks in this book. There's a courthouse step block, you see here. There's a half log cabin block here. And this particular one is the traditional log cabin block. Now, in this little book, it shows you how to, when you cut them, you put them in order that you cut them. And I also saw a tip from someone that said to use a jelly roll pan to put your cut strips in to keep them in order, to help you know exactly where to go. The book shows, let's see, where is it? It has each strip numbered 1 through in this case 11. The book has the directions for 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, and 12-inch blocks. And there it shows you 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, and 12-inch. This particular one is the courthouse steps. It also has yardage calculated for a total of 48 blocks, and it tells you how much yardage to purchase for the 6, 8, 10, and 12-inch block. There's also pictures in here of the different block layouts. There's one here that I was especially fond of. I wanted to show that it can have a modern look. It's not just an old-fashioned block, though it is very old. And in the back, it has more layouts, design layouts, for how to create the different designs. This is with using the traditional log cabin block. This one is using also the traditional. It gives you a lightning bolt look. This is a half log cabin, also a very unique look. And this is the courthouse steps. I want to show you, this is courthouse steps, and I've turned them each time there. Down below, I put the dark with the dark, and then the light with the dark. So you can change the look of your quilt dependent on how you place those blocks, and have the white out here or the dark, and you can turn that around. The same goes for the half log cabin. The chimney is traditionally put in the center of the block, and that's usually shown with a red color. Turkey red was the traditional. I chose the orange because it complements the blue, and it gives, with some geometric prints, it gives it a more modern look, which was my goal. Putting them with the white to the white will give you that lightning strip. This is another one where you can either have the white or the light color in the center, or turn it around and have the dark in the center. When you do that on this block, your chimney moves. This is the traditional log cabin block. Again, the chimney, in my case, is an orange rather than a red. And this, if you place it this way, you can get that long light strip going this way with the dark going the other. If you put them dark to dark, you get that type of effect. And you can have a completely different look to your quilt by changing the placement of those blocks. One of the things that I wanted to tell you that is very important, and most seasoned quilters are very aware of this, but it bears repeating. When you finish the first circuit of your block, you need to trim it up and make it square. I trimmed 4 blocks, and this is what I came up with, scrap-wise. As you can see, it didn't come all the way to the edge on this strip, nor on that one. This is a block that I did not do any squaring up on. So this is what happens when you don't square those blocks. If you don't do that, you'll end up sometimes trying to squish them together this way, or pull them apart, and it distorts the block. So scoring up the blocks is extremely important. I hope you find this helpful for you. I thought it was great, even though I've made numerous log cabin quilts. And this book is so nice and small and compact, and it fits perfect in those crossbody bags.
Okay. Well, we need to draw for a couple of door prizes. We are so happy that you've joined us today, and we're going to draw for the door prizes. The winner of our first virtual door prize is Betsy Neiswanger. So Betsy, here is a 5-inch pack of little charm squares, and you can do some of the quilts up here today, some of the projects. So if you will contact, please send us a message with your phone number and the store location you would like to pick it up. So that is for Betsy. And then the second one, a so kind of wonderful quilt pattern, and that is for Carolyn Tobin. So if both of you would please send your phone number and the store you would like to pick it up at, that would be wonderful. So I guess we are finished. Come over here. We have had a really fun time putting this together for you. We want to thank you for all of your support through the year. We couldn't do this without you, our wonderful customers, and we just want to wish you a very happy holiday season, and we will hopefully see some of you at our open houses in December. If not, we'll be back in January. So have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll sign off now.
Bye, everyone.